Welcome to Podcast Bites, the podcast where we break down landmark judgments, emerging legal trends, and the stories behind the cases in language that actually makes sense. I'm your host, Arya Mardikar, and this episode is brought to you by India Law LLP. Today, we're diving into a fascinating Supreme Court judgment, that is, Chaturbhuj Pradhan versus Amar Pradhan. It's a case about paternity, DNA testing, privacy, and a young man's lifelong search for legal identity. And the Supreme Court's answer is both nuanced and deeply human. Let's get into it. So, who are the parties and what's this case actually about? At its heart, this is a family dispute. Amar Pradhan, the first respondent, claims to be the biological son of Chaturbhuj Pradhan, the appellant. Amar was born on the 10th of September 1999. His mother, the second respondent, asserts that Amar was conceived as a result of consensual relations between herself and Chaturbhuj in January 1999. Chaturbhuj, however, has consistently denied paternity, and he has a significant piece of evidence on his side. He was actually acquitted in a criminal case registered under Section 376 of the Indian Penal Code. That's the rape provision in Sessions case number 268 of 1999. Now, here's where it gets layered. This dispute didn't begin in 2026. There's a history stretching back to 2003 involving multiple rounds of maintenance litigation. At one point, a high court observed that Amar and his mother failed to establish any relationship with Chaturbhuj. That order was even challenged before the Supreme Court, which eventually disposed of the matter through a Lok Adalat in July 2024, by which point Amar was 24 years old, and the court noted that nothing survived in that maintenance matter anymore. But Amar wasn't done. While the appeal was still pending, he filed a fresh civil suit as an adult seeking a declaration that he is the biological son of Chaturbhuj Pradhan and accordingly that he is entitled to one-third share in Chaturbhuj's property. That is Civil Suit number 13A of 2019. The trial court, the first additional civil judge, Class 2, Basna, ordered a DNA test. Chaturbhuj appealed. The High Court of Chhattisgarh at Bilaspur dismissed that appeal in June 2025, observing that no other kind of evidence would be sufficient to clearly establish paternity. Chaturbhuj then approached the Supreme Court by way of a special leave petition, which was converted into a civil appeal. So, what were the arguments on each side? Chaturbhuj's counsel argued three things. First, he cannot be compelled to give a DNA sample. Second, there is no eminent need for a DNA test in this case. Third, Amar's civil suit is barred by res judicata, meaning the matter had already been decided in prior proceedings and cannot be relitigated. Amar's counsel countered that given Chaturbhuj's continuous denial of paternity, there is simply no other recourse available to determine this question. The balance of interest, they argued, lies firmly with Amar. And on res judicata, the earlier proceedings were under Section 125 of the CRPC, which are summary in nature and do not constitute a final finding on paternity. Now, and this is the part I find most valuable about this judgment, Justice Karol doesn't just decide the case, he maps the entire legal landscape on DNA testing in India. Let me walk you through the key precedents in this case because they form the framework every court in India must follow. First is Gautam Kundu versus State of West Bengal, a 1993 Supreme Court judgment which laid down 5 foundational principles. Courts cannot order blood tests as a matter of course. Roving inquiries don't justify such tests. There must be a strong prima facie case. Courts must consider the consequence of branding a child as illegitimate. And critically, no one can be compelled to give a blood sample. Second, in the Panpita Roy versus Robronto Roy from 2015, which confirmed that while DNA tests can be ordered depending on facts and circumstances, if such a direction can be avoided, it should be. The legitimacy of a child should not be put to peril lightly. Third, and perhaps the most comprehensive framework, comes from Aparna Ajinkya Firodia versus Ajinkya Arun Firodia, a 2024 judgment. Here, the court called out a detailed principle. DNA tests are not to be ordered routinely. Paternity must be directly in issue, not merely collateral. Parties must first be directed to lead evidence, and only if it becomes impossible to draw an inference from evidence should a DNA test be directed. The court also flagged awareness of social stigma, inheritance consequences, and the interests of children. Fourth is Ivan Rathiman versus Milan Joseph from 2025, which introduced the concept of two blockades to ordering a DNA test, insufficiency of evidence, and a positive finding on the balance of interests of the parties. Courts must balance the right to privacy of one party against the legitimate interest of the other in knowing the truth. All of these, as Justice Carroll notes, were also recently affirmed by the same bench in Nikhat Parveen versus Rafiq 2026 SCC Online SC 652. So, with that framework in place, how did the court rule? The court distilled the governing test to this. Is the result of the DNA test directly in issue? Can any other evidence on record be substituted for what the DNA test would establish? And what is the best interest of the parties and justice? Applying this to the facts, 1. The alleged relationship between Chaturbhuj and Amar's mother dates to January 1999. Amar was born in September 1999. Chaturbhuj has consistently denied paternity. There is no other evidence that can provide a categorical answer. And crucially, it is nobody's case that Amar's mother ever had an intimate relationship with anyone else. 2. Although prior proceedings had found that no link was established between Chaturbhuj and Amar, those findings were not the result of a full dress trial. They were from summary maintenance proceedings. The civil suit filed by Amar is specifically and directly for this purpose. Paternity is the central question, not a collateral one. And 3. On res judicata, the court closed that argument. Prior proceedings were summary in nature and do not amount to a binding determination of the paternity question. 4. On privacy, the court balanced Chaturbhuj's right to privacy against what is described as Amar's desire for closure, on a question that has loomed large on his life throughout. Since childhood, Amar has seen his mother assert that Chaturbhuj is his father, while authorities consistently found otherwise. Without a definitive answer, Amar could forever be denied rights he may legitimately be entitled to. The court concluded the balance of interests lies definitively in favor of Amar. The appeal was dismissed. The civil court was directed to fix a date for the DNA test and proceed in the civil suit based on the result. Before we wrap up, what are the key takeaways from this judgment for lawyers and litigants? 1. DNA tests in paternity matters are not automatic. They require satisfaction of a two-part test, insufficiency of other evidence, and a positive balance of interests finding. 2. The right to privacy is not absolute. It can be outweighed by another party's right to identity and inheritance, especially where paternity is directly in issue. 3. Summary proceedings under Section 125 CRPC do not create res judicata for a full civil suit on paternity. The nature of the prior proceedings matters. 4. Courts will not order DNA tests for roving inquiries or where paternity is merely incidental. Paternity must be the central live question in the suit. 5. An adult child has an independent right to seek a declaration of paternity and pursue property rights even if prior maintenance claims made on their behalf failed. That's a wrap on today's podcast bites. This judgment is a sensitive, carefully reasoned decision that balances science, privacy, and human dignity. I'm Arya Mardikar, and thank you for listening. Stay legally informed, and we'll see you in the next episode.